Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We want to talk to anybody who is a parent of a teenage girl or even a girl that's soon to be a teenager. Challenging time right now. So we're going to dig into that. And she's a psychic medium. She's a just an amazing, intuitive life and success coach. I'm talking about Kristy Esser and Cyndi Jacobson. They join us, and we're working together on this one because I have a teenage daughter. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're great.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah, it really is challenging for girls now when you look at all the messages that they get in social media, going to school, self-esteem, the drama, the girl drama. I don't know, you guys have, I know at least Cyndi, you have a 16-year-old daughter?
I do. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and then I have a daughter that's finishing up college to be a teacher. So she's surrounded by elementary girls, school, and we just remember being girls ourselves.
Yep. Was it easier back then? Tell me. I don't know.
Well, I think all the same stuff. We didn't have the pressure of social media the way that these girls do now, but it's all the same basic thing.
Trying to fit in, trying to look good, trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong. You know what I mean? It's just, girls need direction. They need direction.
There's a competitive factor. It's self-esteem, self-worth. Where are they getting that from? And we saw it on TV, movies, that kind of thing, back in the 80s. But now they have the added pressure of the social media, which we didn't have back then.
Yep. And self-esteem, I found with my daughter for the longest time, anytime I give her a compliment, I'm going to say, your hair looks really good. No, it doesn't.
See?
Yeah.
I really like what you're wearing, the top you have. No, it doesn't. All the time. And this is just me, but I reframed it once and I said, what's it like to have the best hair out of anybody in the world? And I don't know if this worked, but it was like a reset moment. And that's when she started accepting compliments and things seemed a lot better. And then she started valuing my opinion. Like we literally went to the store yesterday and we're picking out stuff and she's showing me this. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I feel better about that I'm being included in those decisions, but it's also one of those things that I'm sure, you got to pick your battles. Like if this one's top is a little more revealing than that one, is it really, that's what their friends are wearing. So sometimes you have to be okay with some stuff.
And I like how what I noticed in what you just said is that instead of telling her something like, you have great hair, you have nice hair, instead of telling her, you reworded it as a question. Because when you tell something to these girls, they can immediately reject it. They don't necessarily want to believe what you're saying. They immediately reject it, right? That's kind of like how it's kind of like how they're training to be right now. But because you stated it as a question, she was able to reflect on it and say, do I agree with this or not? And
the crazy part is she responded to you so negatively at first, and that stems from one person somewhere that said the slightest, smallest thing to her that resonated and stuck with her. And it took you slowly to undo that. Like it's just one thing that was said to her at school by some other girl, and that's it. Game over. It's there.
Yep.
But girls compare themselves to each other. I mean, I'll see my hair. I've grown up with like this curly hair. Whatever hair you have, you want the opposite. So if you have curly hair, you want straight hair. If you have straight hair, you want curly hair. And we always think that something else is better somehow. Or we look at someone, we admire them. We want, well, I want what she has. And we're always comparing.
Back in the 80s, we had to look at like Brooke Shields or all these models that were constantly on TV doing the Guess jeans commercials, DoorDash jeans. And then you see that and you want to be that. And then you'd have to figure out, well, how do I do it? How do I become? That's what goes on with girls in their head. How do I become that when I'm not that?
And you look in the mirror and you're nothing like it. And then you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you have now with social media, your friends saying stuff, and I just called a parent last week over a, girl drama situation, and just kind of like, let's put it to the side. And, it started with social media and this one posting here and back and forth. And, it's not easy for parents, but it's definitely not easy for teenage girls right now dealing with that. What are your suggestions to kick up self-esteem? Because I think it really does start there. I think that has like we're talking about right now, has a lot to do with it.
First of all, allow her to decide who she wants to be. Let her decide like what her style is and what she feels comfortable in. Because if you fight that, that's going to be like a constant battle. You let her wear and wear her hair and wear her clothing what makes her the most comfortable. As so long as it's not pushing on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally. And I dealt with this. We went shopping, like, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and she bought a top. It was a little revealing. It wasn't. And tiny bit of maybe belly showing, depending on, if you stretched a little bit. And the principal actually said, as she's walking down the hallway, zip up that hoodie. Okay. All right. Well, I said to my daughter, if that comes up again, ask her what the dress code is. Like I say, your dad, I genuinely want to know, what is the dress code? I didn't think it was distracting. Hey, I'm a guy. I would never send my daughter to school, wearing something that, shouldn't be worn. But yeah, sometimes you need to question things too. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you were on the right track when you asked her a question.
Yeah.
So I think as parents, we can propose more questions rather than, like, I remember as a girl, if my parents were like this, and this because I said so, I just wanted to automatically rebel against that, because I was trying to find myself. Like, I didn't just want to be told like who I was. I wanted to find out who I was, right? Yeah. You're on that self-discovery journey. Yeah. So I would propose it more as a question, being like, well, what do you think that says about you? Is that the kind of message you want to portray to the world? You know what I mean? Like, I would maybe put it back to her as a question.
And what will happen is if you
get her thinking, if you want her wheels to start turning.
And what will happen is if you demand her not to wear a certain thing, she'll pack it in her backpack, get to school, and change.
I used to like, all right, I'll just layer up. I had my sexy top right underneath a big heavy sweater. My parents didn't know the difference. Nope. As soon as I would leave the house, off came the sweatshirt.
Yep. And that's the power of the hoodie. Unfortunately, you can't so much in the middle of the summertime. We're not there here yet, but that can be used to camouflage, for sure. I think also be open to what they're into in terms of music. Like, I'm open to everything. I'm not going to get in the car and say, shut that off. I'll listen to it. I'm okay, even with some lyrics. But there is times where song came on and I just look at her, I'm like, yeah, no. It doesn't happen often, and she doesn't fight it. She's like, yeah, okay, off onto the next song. I think if you're open to it, because what's going to happen, this isn't about me, but I'll share, because I have a 14-year-old. Mm-hmm. She sends me a screenshot of a rock song from the 80s, no, the 70s, the other day that she heard on a TV show. And she's totally into it. The song is Fool for the City by Foghat. Don't even know if you've ever heard it. It was not even a huge hit, but it was definitely a rock song. She saw it on a TV show. Here she is, all into, rap artists, and actually not, some decent stuff there. And then the car turned totally to a 70s rock song. And I was like, cool. Like, all right. That's, and, to you guys' point, they're trying to find themselves, they're in the car steering their lives, trying to figure it out.
As a parent, remember that they are trying to figure it out, and it is kind of their journey. They're going to have to, I think the best thing you can do, back to what I said before, is ask them questions to get them a little bit deeper. Yeah. Like, they're just reacting to their environment right now. They're trying to survive. There's like all kinds of peer pressure.
I always found it best to make sure that you have all the friends at your house rather than letting her go to somebody else. This way you can monitor the friends also and see who they're attracted to and who they're hanging out with, and reflect back on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And be involved. Like, anytime she asked me to go somewhere, I'll I'll accommodate as long as I can because I want to be involved and I want to see who she's hanging out with. Now, my toughest part is keeping track of the names. Like, it's like, what do you mean you don't know who Sophia is? All right, which one is Sophia? Does she live on this street or that street? That's my toughest part.
That's the thing. Some of them have nicknames too. And I'm like, well, who's like the one girl that my friend hangs out, her name is Wubby. I'm like, which one's Wubby? Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, who?
How do you draw the line or the boundary between parent and friend?
Oh, I just wrote that down. How did you? I literally just said that I'm a parent, not your friend. I just wrote that down.
Because I'm psychic. I don't know.
Oh,
no, wait, you're psychic. You're the psychic. Maybe you transferred that energy, but that just popped in my head. It's like, and it is like a genuine question. I think a lot of parents ask, and I always wonder because you want to be the cool parent, but you also have to have the boundary too.
You have to have that fine line and know when to stop.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Fine there, yeah. Because when I was raising my kids, I was the mom and the dad, and I took on more of the father role rather than the mom. And I knew when to be their friend and I knew when to be dad, basically, because if I wasn't tough, I knew later in life they would be a disaster. I had to be harder on them.
Yeah. I totally get it. And my friend, I've known her since I was 17. She's a therapist and works with a lot of teens. And she said to me, don't ever, no matter what situation you're going through, let them disrespect you.
No, you can't.
Ever. Don't even let it slide. You got to clamp it right down. Not be a jerk about it, but you got to be on top of it because they're looking for the boundaries. And if you don't provide them, and more times than not, if you make it known that, yeah, that was disrespectful, I don't appreciate that, you're not going to get pushback because they know they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely have to have boundaries and like clear rules, and definitely I think you can command respect by being firm but kind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, way to be firm but kind. And then also let them know that no matter what they're going through, you're an open ear. Like, they can come to you with just about anything, and you're going to sit and listen and try to understand. But like, I wanted my kids to like see me that way. Like, don't be afraid to come and ask me questions or tell me things.
Yep.
But they also have to be held accountable, where if they do something wrong, most parents just let it slide. You can't let it slide. They have to be held accountable in some way, something taken away, punishment, something, not just, oh, you did wrong and then off you go. No, because they're not learning anything.
Yep. And to your point,
say what you mean what you say, back up what you say with the actions. Otherwise they're going to walk all over you.
Absolutely. And that's got to start early, in life. But I always say, I will not judge you. You can come and tell me anything, and I will always tell you the truth. And those are the three things I always say. I'm never gonna, lie to you. I'm always gonna be there. And I think they need to know that you're available. You're there. I would say if I could change as a parent back in the day, I probably got more hot-headed than I should have, and I let things affect me. And a crazy work schedule, and that's the one thing I could change.
Maybe because that's how we were brought up.
And then there's that. Yeah.
Because there weren't the rules back then. Our parents, it was full reign back then. So we learned from that. And that's us having to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
Because my mom was a hothead. Oh my Lord. Yeah. So you had to break the cycle.
Yep. I think I realized that, yeah. And you're right. I think you nailed it, because the belt came out when I was a kid, and that was the scare tactic. And that was that generation. But yeah, 100%. You need to take a look at how you're dealing with things and think before you talk, because they're not going to forget.
No,
because another thing a parent can understand is that teenage minds and brains are not fully developed. So we sometimes treat them like adults when honestly, physically, scientifically, all of it, they are not. Their brain is not fully developed until they're 25. So what's happening is the logical part of the brain, the front cortex, is where the logic and reason comes from. that part is still a lot, mostly gray matter. And they are dealing with more like the center of the brain, which is all emotion. So they react on emotion, and they also pick up on your emotion.
Yeah.
So that's why you're going to see them fly off the handle and be emotional with you and react emotionally toward you, because they're not actually fully developed.
Yeah, they're not able to think ahead what's actually being said.
They don't
just
have
react.
the reasoning
Yeah,
and
they just
logical
react.
brain part developed yet.
And that's why everything's drama, because
Everything
they can't.
is drama.
That's why everything is drama, because they can't sit
They're
back.
they're
and,
literally living through emotions
Yep.
constantly. They don't even have the ability. People don't realize that to think completely logically the way we do.
And I've encountered just that in the last couple of weeks, where I try to plug into every drama situation, and there've even been times that I'm thankful that I gave her suggestions on what to type to a friend, and I was like, okay, cool, all right, yeah, I diffused the situation, and she was okay with it, and she was kind of taking the wheel. Kristy, I have to ask you, as a psychic medium and a parent, did that ever come into play with you? Did you get sign signals, intuition in terms of parenting?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Do you want a really crazy story?
Sure.
Okay, so it was 2 a.m. My son had a friend over. He was a senior. 2 a.m. I shot straight up in bed, sat straight up, looked around my room and said, something's not right. Something's not right. I go down to the basement. Okay. His friend's over, and I caught them. They were sound asleep, but something said, open up the fire escape window, and I'm digging through rocks. Didn't know why I was digging through the rocks. Right. Digging through rocks. And I found a pipe, like the marijuana thing.
Mm-hmm.
Came out. He's never done it again since. Never again. So something said, get up, nip this in the bud before it gets out of control.
Go to the window and dig through
and
rocks.
Yes.
Who would do that?
My son said from that moment on, he's like, I will never get away with anything, will I? I'm like, never.
Yeah.
And
your mom's a psychic.
That's new. And I also knew that he should and would join the military, and he is, and he's in the Navy. So yeah, I knew psychically that he would be in the military.
Interesting how you just said that. I'm not a psychic. People say I have a little intuition, spirituality, whatever it is. I thought that about my son, and he announced a couple of months ago that he's going to join the military.
Best thing for him.
Oh my God. Her son has become a man.
Best
It's
thing.
amazing.
He just turned 26, and let me tell you what, I have a Ferris Bueller for a son. Okay, my son is through and through Ferris.
Yeah.
Best thing for him. It'll give him direction. It'll give him like every basic possible necessity in life.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep.
And he wants to work for the FBI. So that's his, the stepping stone toward that. But yeah, it's funny. But I had that feeling. And I even told a friend, I said, I bet you he joins the military. And sure enough, he started talking about it. And then we haven't talked deep about it. He talked to a recruiter.
Yep.
And you never know. I mean, that's a couple of years away. Will that happen? We'll see, but it's on his radar. Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Well, keep him focused towards that.
Encourage
it. Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be so good.
When it comes to parenting and setting those boundaries, how do you decide, like, what age is okay, let's say, for dating? And how do you define dating, for a 14, 15, 16-year-old?
That's scary, because dating nowadays is totally different than what it was for us. I feel like these kids advanced so much more than what we were because of the internet.
Yeah.
So they're likely to experiment more than what we did, I think.
So.
Yeah. But
I remember wanting to date in junior high, but not being allowed until like I was 16.
I was allowed to go to like the movies or whatever, at 14.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Dates or whatever, things like that.
You know what's interesting? And it just popped in my head. My daughter talks to this guy, and he's in Illinois and we're in New York.
Right.
Snapchat, or TikTok. I can't remember which one he's on. I think it's Snap. And she just met him there, and they talk all the time, like he's here. And she even said the other day, he's like, yeah, one of these days I want to go to Illinois. When sometimes I can, sometime I can meet him. I'm like, well, that's a long car trip, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But it's so weird that I don't know which is worse, having somebody that's far away or somebody close by. I guess far away, but then again, you have to think about what's going on in terms of video. So, then you have that thought that goes through your head.
They still get that emotional attachment.
100%.
So it's equally as good as being a person. Yeah.
I think girls need to realize that I just don't believe that personally that boys are ready or like develop like a commitment at that age. And I think we just need to tell our daughters to kind of just guard your heart a little bit, like slow them down. They're not really going to be as committed as you are or as what they say they are, because boys are just like, they're also on their own journey, and they just don't, I don't think they develop commitment at that young of an age,
Yeah.
There's too many.
I think girls do. Like
Yeah.
a girl would commit to a boy, and that emotion where the boy is not committed to that emotion.
And what I've learned though too is like when they're in school, there's too many choices for them right in front of their face every day.
And they have the apps.
Yes.
Where they can meet anybody anytime.
Mhm.
There's too many choices.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that
And it's setting them.
even when you guys were growing up, it's almost part of acceptance. You want to be, if you have a boyfriend, you're accepted, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Only the pretty girls had boyfriends. That's how it was for us.
I'm just trying to think back.
Well,
I didn't even go to the prom. Like none of the proms, none of the formals, none of those. I just never did.
Wow.
wow. I definitely went.
Yeah, I went.
It was like a thing.
I
right?
went 3 in 1 year.
3 in 1 year.
Like- I went to 3 different proms.
That was an expensive year for your mom.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So, Kristy, how old are your kids now? Your son he's 24?
My son just turned 26 a couple days ago, and my daughter's 29.
Wow. And I have an older daughter. She will be 27 in 18 days, 19 days. Yeah.
Wow. It
Yep.
doesn't get easier, does it?
No, it just gets harder because now back then there wasn't social media. So that's, now it's another, absolutely. No, but I think we're in a territory here that a lot of parents have to deal with. Like, how do you, and you think you have the answer until something comes up, and then it's like, all right, well, I gotta think of another way to work that. And as a parent, you think you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all have like our child's best interest in mind. I mean, my parenting style was more to sit down and have a conversation with my kids. I treated them like adults before they were actually adults, as far as wanting their input and like wanting to have discussions rather than me. I mean, yes, there were rules, right? Like these are the rules and we're sticking to it. But when it was a conversation about dating or whatever, I would approach it like a conversation with them, because I just feel like if you give the child respect, then they're going to feel respected and give you back the same respect, right? Hopefully. But I would really talk to them like, okay, well, this is my feeling about you dating. These are my concerns. This is what I think you should be aware of. And what do you think? Like, let it be a back and forth conversation where, they feel respected. Like they feel like they have the ability to have input.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did, and that's what I would recommend.
And we have like a minute left. How do you get them to do chores? Because I just haven't found the secret yet.
I would just make it a rule. You will do it.
Yeah, it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So many times, like, please empty the dishwasher. A day goes by, you haven't emptied the dishwasher. I got to circle back to it.
And the next ask you for something. Can you take me somewhere? Well, guess what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had the conversation yesterday because she ran out of money at the mall and she's like, I need to get a Victoria's Secrets. I need to get a bra. I'm like, okay, you know what? I know what they cost. So I'm like, oh, you conveniently ran out of money as you have to, this one last thing you need to get. Well, you're going to be working because I bought it. I say, you're going to be working. I got things for you to do. And she's like, okay, all right. Don't forget, we had this conversation because I'm not going to.
Yeah, you have to make that a nice little balance there so that they're not learning to take advantage of dad.
Yeah. Yep. And you still want to be the cool dad, but you don't want to be taken advantage of. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, you guys provide so much value in what you do because you work together, you work separately. Kristy, you're a psychic medium. And Cyndi, you're a consultant, a life coach, if we will. And we can work separately with you. Let's start with Cyndi. Somebody wants to reach out to you. How do they find you?
Go on Facebook, and my name is Cyndi Jacobs. I spell it Cyndi Jacobs. Or also Starry Life Coaching on Facebook.
Gotcha. And Kristy, we find you how?
You can find me at Heart to Heart 111 on Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah. Always great talking with you guys. It's just like we're just hanging out. We're like parents, at Panera.
Yeah.
Having a conversation. But yeah, you're available. I mean, we didn't even get into it, but Kristy, you do psychic readings and
Yes.
you're damn good.
It's
And,
fun to know what your kid's doing.
well, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk. And Cyndi, for any kind of life situation, you're available too as a consultant. Always great talking with you guys.
Yes, you
Nice
too.
talking to
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
have a great week.
All right. Next time my daughter wants to go to the mall, I'll have her call one of you.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.